Welcome everyone to the another episode. Today we have a Mr. Tommy Walker all the way from Argentina. So he's the mind engineer. So he have a great story being like who he is right now and how he helps other people on their mind journey. It is like an interesting part. So Tommy is passionate about inspiring and empowering you to heal, transfer, and achieve your greatness potential. So Tommy Walker's journey is of a transformation began with a major challenge from open heart surgery at just 3.5 years old. And this experience left not only physical scars, but also deep emotional ones. So growing up feeling like he's like a black sheep and Tommy was bullied, faced failed relationship, marriage that ended, and numerous business setbacks. For years, he felt stuck, navigate, and defeated. So, despite trying to countless methods, nothing seems to work, only depending his feelings and inadequacy with his transformation. So, in this episode, we're going to learn more about Tommy's mindset, how he done everything from all of the adversity he had to go through in his life, the setbacks, and what is the lesson he learned, and also the work he does being a mind engineer. So, without further ado, let's welcome Tommy to the show. Tommy, welcome to the show, and how are you doing today?
Hi, thank you very much for having me here. A great introduction. I appreciate that. And welcome to everybody that is listening too. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm really appreciating your time, and it's just very, very interesting journey you had over the years, isn't it? Like, lot of things happened to your life, and yeah, this is actually build us like who as we are as a person, right? This is why the mind engineer, I assume. So walk us through like a very beginning of the journey you had, like the open heart surgery, 3.5 year old, like why you had to do the surgery, like what was wrong with you during the time and then moving forward.
Okay, of course, of course. So when we're in mom's womb, our heart is or our body is, of course, growing and putting it falling into place. In my case, between the ventricles, there's a wall that normally shuts off, when the baby is born or a bit later, but in my case, there was a hole between the ventricles.
Mm,
So the blood that was not oxygenated was mixing up with the blood that was oxygenated, right in the between the ventricles, so I wouldn't receive enough oxygen in the body to be able to really live a healthy life. So they found that out more or less in the first couple of years. And when I was 3.5 years old, I had to go through the surgery because if not, I wouldn't have been able to have a normal life, healthy life. So I have a scar that runs from the top of my chest to nearly my belly button. So imagine, being
yeah.
in the beach and swimming pools and whatever, people looking at you in a weary face, scary face. So it left lots of, as you mentioned before, it left lots of mental, emotional wounds and also physical wounds that I carried along my life. So I tried many things to try to overcome the feelings of inadequacy, of there's something wrong with me, I'm not lovable, I'm not, good enough, and things like that.
Yeah.
My parents were very hard on us, trying to, of course, get us to have a better life than they had. And I get it nowadays, but back then it made me feel even more inadequate, more, pain. And although I tried therapy and I tried many things, affirmation, positivity, nothing's really seemed to work. And it made me feel even worse because although I was doing the work I should be doing, I wasn't getting better in my mind. I was falling into narcissistic relationship, unhealthy relationships, abandonment, different things that really even made me feel more and more hurt.
Yeah. And it's not like an easy surgery though, isn't it? Like this a very risky surgery, doing any child that age and open heart surgery, I think like the most riskiest and the brain surgery, these are like really tough ones. So
Yeah. Imagine
yeah,
we're talking about
yeah,
1981. So the
yeah.
technology that they have here, they didn't have it back then. So yes, it was an open heart, it meaning that they had to open my chest completely and
Mm,
work on my heart there, right? For some time, the heart was connected, the body was connected to a machine that would pump the blood along my body, and then they had to reconnect my heart again, and of course, start it over. So yeah, it was a very risky thing. So imagine my parents, what they might have going through, and me as that little boy absorbing whatever their fears, all these things, and the stories and narratives that I created out of seeing my parents so stressed out because all of this makes sense.
yeah. And I can feel that like how much pain and suffering goes through for the parents to see you like going through the like the and recovery or before that or after that, because we nearly lost our child like when he was born. He had a brain damage during the birth, so it just like a traumatized us and going through the process.
Wow.
So yeah, uh, I feel that like how tough could have been like for your parents, and even though you as a child like recovering from the such a surgery, and like how long did it take you for recover from it? Like obviously you probably can't remember that during that time, right?
No, I don't remember exactly. I still have memories from that time. I still remember the room where I was kind of recuperating,
Mm,
right? And I have some images. It's amazing how the mind works because I still have some memories from back then when I was very small. But many of those, I don't have them. Like the mind kind of protected me, right, from that pain. Although I've done a lot of work, that is not something that is bothering me anymore, but it's something I had to work on that past because what happens many times, is that the mind uses past experiences to project potential futures. So what happened to me is I became this people pleaser to try to compensate, the pain and everything that my parents had gone through because of this. Apart from that, many other things, right? So I wanted to look for love on the outside through people pleasing. So what I found myself is falling into different relationship where I needed to be needed by the other person, right? And whenever I kind of started giving that to the other person would start trying, maybe start try treating me in a very bad way, and I would still stick around. So the impact that I had in the past, I carried it for nearly 30 something years of my life, right? Some people don't realize this on how the mind works, but that's why I call myself the mind engineer. I've been studying the mind for many years to try and understand the mechanism or why
mm.
we're doing the things that we're doing, whether it is struggling in life, struggling in relationships, struggling in, our business. It always goes back to, the mind and understanding what's really going on. So it really helped me now become the mind engineer, helping people overcome my struggles first and then help others overcome their own struggles.
Yeah. And obviously, like there is other parts of your life, right? Like you had to go through, which is like a never easy. The business didn't do well, from your relationship as well. So that needs like a lot of resilience for the brain to cope with a lot of times, and not many people can come back from that. Like if they go through like a one bankruptcy or like it didn't work out for the idea, like they go to back to the job or like doesn't feel like moving forward with it. So how was your process during the time when things doesn't work out for yourself, and like you don't see things are working for you? Like how did you train your brain to react for them certain situation, like when the relationship's not working or the business not working or the things you're trying so hard?
So that's a great question. So one of the things that happened to me is, right, in my career, at least in the professional career, not a business side like independent, but working for others. I became very good programmer. Again, I wanted to succeed. I wanted to prove that I wasn't good, that I wanted to prove that I was good enough, that I wasn't inadequate. So I found myself studying a lot of programming, and I became a really good for a young age programmer. So I started working for big companies. And at a very young age, I made it in the career. I made it really high. I was earning as much as my dad was earning when I was nearly 18, 19 years old. But back then, I even realized that there was something missing. So although I was earning a lot of money, I was working in international companies, doing really good economically, at least back then,
Mm,
something was missing. I felt empty. I felt unfulfilled. I didn't feel happy. I was struggling a lot. So after that, I started thinking maybe it has to do that I need to go through, starting my own business. And I didn't have anybody around me that was an entrepreneur. So I was the only one in my family. My parents were against it. My brother was against it. My friends were against it. Right? They were telling me that I should pursue my career. Even a couple of years ago, I met with one of my friends from school, and he told me, Tommy, you had such a promising future ahead of you and you screwed it up. And I'm like, what? I cannot
yeah,
believe he still believes that, right? Because I quit
yeah,
my career back then and I went down the entrepreneur journey, right? So I started going down the entrepreneur journey, trying to seek something that would make me feel good about myself, make me feel adequate, make me feel good enough. Because although I was doing very good on that end, I still felt inadequate, not good enough, all of that.
Mm.
So what happened in the entrepreneur journey, it was a very big hit because none of the things I was trying was working. I couldn't make any sales. Nobody was interested in what I was offering. So for many years, I went through idea for idea, investment, different things to try to get a business going. Nothing seemed to work. So at that time, I went into coping mechanism, whether it is, going out with girls, porn, or different things to try to cover up the pain that I was feeling that things were not working, of course. I then, wanted to start a family, be with somebody to try to feel loved and accepted. So my personal independent career as a business entrepreneur was not working. I tried to make it work through the love life. So I married a woman. It didn't work. The marriage was very toxic on both sides. We were very insecure, very immature, and that totally failed. Again, businesses failed. I started with a small business then that started making some money, but it wasn't enough. I had to do other stuff to be able to, work 9 to 5 and with that money put it back into the business. Things were not working. It was in 2008 that I touched rock bottom with my ex-wife said, Tommy, we're done. This is not working. My business wasn't going very well. And I hit rock bottom. At that time, I felt even more inadequate, a lot of not good enough, a lot of not valuable, not failure, total failure. And it was towards the end of that year that a friend of mine came to me and said, Tommy, I have met a coach, spiritual teacher, mentor that has blown my mind. I think that she's gonna be able to help you really get your life back in track. Right. So
Yeah.
I started working with this woman, and this woman started really teaching me how the mind works. And why was it that although I had tried visualization, positivity, and all these things that are trending for many years now, and were not working for me, and it really started making sense. And I was able to start making changes finally, where I was able to get the business that was barely making any money. I made a big investment. I rented a entire space to, an office where I really was able to bring that business that it skyrocketed and it was really amazing for many, many years. In the meantime, I also kept on going on the personal development and I started loving it so much that I started helping people for free at the beginning. And then I started charging a little bit. And then, I kind of transitioned from that other business that is still running and I have employees and people that work, doing the things that I used to do. And now I'm dedicating myself mostly on coaching because it really turned my life over. I'm now living in the mountains. That was my dream place. I have two
Mm.
successful businesses. I'm married again. I got two kids. And, I live 15 minutes away from a ski area. So it's like I'm really living the dream that I always wanted. And it was
Yeah.
all about really working on my mindset and not so much on marketing, sales, creating leads and things like that. Most people think that they have a lead problem, they have a marketing problem, they have a sale problem, and normally what they have normally at the beginning is a mindset problem. The rest are just surface level problems that we need to get through to be able to really get things moving forward. So that's kind of a summary. Sorry, I spoke a lot.
Yeah.
There you go.
No, 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 that's great. Like the details is needed because we see the success from the outside, right? Like we don't see the struggle, we don't see the problems like people had to go through, and everyone got their own story a different way, a different level, and this is why I admire everyone whoever comes to the show and sharing their journey, and I respect that because we started the podcast just like I wanted to share about my story, and I listened to other people podcasts and realized people's are story far bigger than mine, and like I need to bring in, and everyone's felt different way, different things. Like I never been through a surgery age 3.5 year old you been through, like has certain people gone through like a certain ways. Probably didn't lose your parents age 13. Like I have my own unique story, and yours is different, and some people can relate it to that because some point in life people had gone through their journey and gone through a surgery or been through some kind of hardship. So right now the work you're doing with the being a brain engineer, what do you specifically explain, what does your work do? Is like the do you train someone or or you can make them understand more about the brain or help them with their anxiety, depression, for our listeners to understand better?
Of course, I can do that. So it works in any aspects. You see these tools, a lot of people say like, oh, some tools work for this, some tools work for something different. What I've been learning for the last 16 years following this mentor coach that I had, spiritual teacher, these tools can work for anything. So I have worked with people with anxiety. I have worked with people with depression. I have worked with people with suicidal thoughts. I have worked with entrepreneurs. I have worked with successful people, with millionaires. It doesn't matter where you go with this. It can really work for anyone. So what most people are doing nowadays, and for many years now, is that whenever you feel something bad, like procrastinating, people tend to kind of go into war with their mind, with the procrastination, with the self-sabotage, with their perfectionism, with their imposter syndrome. It's like they try to logically, in a way, try to overcome that by pushing harder or by beating themselves up or by, breaking things into smaller steps to be able to take actions, but they don't really understand what's going on. We need to, first of all, start understanding that the mind is not our enemy. The ego, what people talk the ego as the enemy,
Yeah.
is kind of a best friend that has limited information. So instead of going to war with the ego, what I believe is that we're spiritual beings living a human experience. Spirit loves and accepts everything. Ego wants to control. Okay. Ego wants to feel loved and accepted. So many times what people do, if people are falling, I work with people that fall into perfectionism and never launch their business or never, change careers or never do anything because they're scared of, if they don't do perfect, they cannot do it, right? So they're
Hmm.
stuck in that, you know, thinking what they're going to do or trying to implement, but never really actually taking the steps they need to. So what we start understanding is that that part of them is trying to protect them. Protect them from what? People tell me, well, okay, well, what's the benefit of procrastination? Protecting you from pain. So people tell me, but Tommy, I'm in pain right now. Yes, but look at this. If I'm in pain right now, but if I take a step forward or 10 steps forward and they don't go well, I might beat myself up. So the pain I'm going to be, if I'm beating myself up because I confirm, quote unquote, that I'm not good enough because I tried something and it didn't go well, and it confirms, quote unquote, I'm doing the quotes right now, right,
Yeah.
that I'm not good enough, that pain is going to be much stronger than the pain that you're feeling now from not moving. So when
Right.
people start understanding that the procrastination is a part of you protecting you from a bigger pain, now we can look at that part of you with more love and acceptance. When we look
Mm.
at that part of us with more love and acceptance, in itself, that behavior starts dissolving. It might not dissolve right away in 2 minutes, but if we understand that the procrastination is protecting me from pain, but at the
Yeah.
beginning, that behavior started because it didn't feel love and acceptance, and now we're giving it true love and acceptance, not just pretending, because we're not stupid. If you're with a partner and they tell you that they love you and you really know that they're not saying the truth, you realize that. If the person is faking something, you normally can realize that. Well, the mind is not stupid. When we try to play games with the mind in that sense, gets it. So we got to be very careful. It has to come from truer, pure love of saying, okay, this part of me is trying to protect me from a bigger pain. Thank
Yeah.
you. I appreciate you for trying this. But you know what? What you're trying is also creating pain. So at the end, it's not really working like we would like to. So I guide people through different exercises to be able to develop unconditional love, compassion, acceptance, understanding, support to themselves. That is in itself unconditional love, because it's through unconditional love that the mind opens up to change. Most people focus on change and they try to
Yeah.
focus from control, from ego. What I help people tap into is their true self, their spirit, soul, whatever you want to call it, to that higher energy that brings love and acceptance, that helps support a safe environment for the mind, the ego, to invite it to do something different. But by telling myself that I need to do something different, pushing me, bringing myself down, I'm creating more pain. More pain is going to hold on to your old behaviors. So I have seen people that have tried. Yesterday, I spoke with a guy, this was so sad. A guy that for the last 25 years, he has been doing inner work with different techniques: EMDR, CBT, therapy, psychology, medications, inner child healing, shadow work. And I asked him, have you ever seen in these 25 years a technique that teaches you how to love and accept every part of you, even the parts of you that you think are screwing your life, to be able to love and accept them? He's like, no, I never done that before. And it was
Yeah.
shocking because although he had done so much work, nobody had taught him how to love and accept himself unconditionally. Because it's that unconditional love that is going to dissolve the behavior that you're trying to change in the first place through authoritarian, through, attacking yourself, through going to war. War brings more war. Love, and if you look at what's his name now? I couldn't find this name. Sorry. Well, but if you look around the world, Martin Luther King and different people, through love, not through war, right? They were able to make amazing changes in the world. So if we look, love is much more powerful than any, attack or anything that we can bring. So the ego needs to feel loved and accepted, not attacked, to open up, to want to change. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's great. So with that, like you've been working with a lot of individuals and you have worked on yourself. What is the number one lesson you say like you have learned over the years when it comes down to like understanding the brain?
That love can change anything. True love, unconditional love can change anything, can dissolve. Again, instead of using the word change, I'm using more the word dissolve. Love will dissolve anything. Any behavior that you're trying to change, losing weight, eating healthier, going to the gym, working for your business, making more sales, whatever it is, there is a mind block behind it that most people are not aware of. So if you want to make a change, instead of focusing on changing, focus on loving and accepting the part of you that is protecting you from something deeper. Try to understand what is it protecting you from. Love and accept, understand, and see how the mind starts dissolving behaviors that are getting in the way of where you truly want to be.
Yeah, that's great. And if we're nearly coming to end of this podcast, Tommy, so before we finish up here, if you want to give like a one advice to all listeners who can take on the advice and implement it today, like what the advice going to be when they're working on their mind.
Okay. So the first thing is to connect with love, breathe into your heart. Imagine that you're breathing into your heart, connect with love, and every behavior that you might have that you try to change, instead of fighting it, if you're trying to lose weight and you find yourself eating, right? If you find yourself procrastinating, ask yourself, what is this protecting me from? What is the benefit of this behavior? And if no answer comes up, okay, keep asking, keep asking, keep asking, because there is a deeper reason why you're doing what you're doing. Most people work on the surface level problems, on the symptoms. That's why so many people are struggling to make changes. To make true deep change, it has to come from a place of love and acceptance and understanding. What is the benefit of procrastination? What is the benefit of perfectionism? What is the benefit of eating?
Mm.
When you eat, you feel good. Okay, that is the benefit. Oh, but then it brings weight. Okay, that is the side problem. But the main thing is you're trying to make yourself feel good. So what you're saying is that you don't feel good. So instead of forcing yourself to try to feel good, try to understand why you're feeling bad. Most people move away from the pain, from, the negative emotions. That is the worst thing that you can do. Moving away from negative emotions is like denying an infection that you have in your hand by just, covering it up with a glove and pretending it's not there. No,
Yeah,
negative emotions are part of our human experience. We need to learn how to integrate them, not fight them or dismiss them or deny them. Make sense?
that's great. Thank you. So thank you for sharing that, Mr. Tommy. We're nearly coming to the end of this podcast. So before we wrap up here, if anyone wants to learn more about yourself or your business, where's the best place to find you?
They can just put the Mind Engineer and they're going to find me. I'm in all of the platforms. You're going to be able to see me on Facebook, on Google. If they just Google me, you can find me on Instagram, TikTok. Just put the Mind Engineer, and I share lots of insight and tools to help people go deeper and learn how to truly love themselves, to dissolve the behaviors that they've been trying to change for so long that haven't been working for them.
All right, that's great. Thank you so much for your time. I really wish you very best of luck with everything you do. And thank you so much for sharing a valuable lesson to our audience today. And yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And thank to everyone that is listening to this.
You're very welcome. So that's a wrap, guys. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast episode with Mr. Tommy Walker. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. So, if anyone wants to learn more about him, you can visit his website, themindengineer.com, and you can find him on a social media platform as well. I'm going to put all the links in the description for you to find him easily. So, until then, talk to you in the next episode. So, take care.